The referee points to the spot. The Wanda Metropolitano erupts. Arsenal have a penalty. Eberechi Eze ghosted in front of Atletico defender David Hanko, received a cross and went to ground under a challenge. Dutch official Danny McKelly pointed to the spot. Arsenal lead restored, game back in Arsenal's hands. And then it was taken away. McKelly visited the monitor, 45 seconds, 13 replays. He reversed his decision. No penalty, no goal, 1-1. And the tie remains level heading to the Emirates. That is where we are. And by the end of this breakdown, you are going to understand everything that happened tonight, why it matters, and what it means for Arsenal going forward. Let us start with the stakes, because they need to be stated clearly. A penalty awarded and converted tonight would have put Arsenal 2-1 up going into the second leg. Atletico would have needed to score twice at the Emirates to go through. The tie would have been firmly in Arsenal's control. Instead, it is 1-1. Atletico only need a draw in London. Arsenal must win. The entire pressure of this tie has shifted because of a penalty decision that lasted 45 seconds and 13 replays. That is the weight of what happened tonight. That is the context every Arsenal supporter needs to carry into next week. Before we get into the detail, let us acknowledge what Arsenal were coming into this game as. Premier League leaders, the form team in Europe, unbeaten in 13 Champions League games this season. They walked into one of the most hostile grounds in European football, and they took the lead. Victor Gyökeres, cool, composed, ice-cold from the penalty spot in the first half. That should have been the foundation for a controlled, professional away performance. Then the second half arrived, and with it came chaos. Ben White was penalised for handball. Julian Alvarez buried the penalty. 1-1. The momentum shifted completely to Atletico, and then came the moment that has everyone talking. Now let us go through the numbers that define tonight's performance, because they tell an important story. Arsenal's Champions League record this season now reads 10 wins, 3 draws, 0 defeats across 13 games. Opta confirmed that this equals Arsenal's longest ever unbeaten run in European Cup and Champions League football. The previous occasion being between March 2005 and April 2006. That campaign ended in a final appearance. Reading that stat back is not nostalgia, it is historical precedent. This Arsenal side is on a trajectory the club has only been on once before in the Champions League era. Victor Gyökeres leads Arsenal's scoring charts with 19 goals in all competitions this season. Tonight he added another from the spot, which tells you everything about why Arsenal signed him. When they need a goal, he delivers. Declan Rice completed 83 passes tonight. That is the second most by an English midfielder in a Champions League semi-final since records began in 2003. In one of the most hostile atmospheres in European football, away from home, in a semi-final, 83 completed passes. He controlled the tempo, he recycled possession, he was composed under every kind of pressure. Rice is proving himself as one of the best midfielders in Europe, and his performance tonight should give Arsenal real confidence going into the second leg. The player ratings confirm the picture. Gyökeres was the standout performer on the pitch, rated 8.1. David Raya rated 7.8, solid throughout. William Saliba rated 7.5, composed and dominant. Rice rated 7.1, strong individual display. Gabriel and Zinchenko both contributed. Ødegaard was rated 6.8 before being substituted at 57 minutes. Martinelli came off at 68. Noni Madueke also replaced at 68. Ben White, penalised for the handball, came off at 86. The ratings tell a clear story. Gyökeres and Rice were exceptional. The defensive core held their shape reasonably well. But the midfield and attacking positions outside those two were below the standards Arsenal are capable of. And Ødegaard's early exit, with a modest rating suggesting he was not fully fit going into this game, is the most pressing concern of the entire evening. Martin Ødegaard received treatment on the touchline towards the end of the first half before being substituted before the hour mark. This is described as a concern. That is potentially the most significant off-ball development of the entire night. Ødegaard is Arsenal's captain. He is their creative engine. His substitution before the hour suggests the staff were not willing to risk him further. With the second leg at the Emirates just days away, his fitness is now the most important question facing Mikel Arteta. Arsenal need answers on this before Tuesday. Now let us go deep into the central controversy of the night, because it deserves a full, honest account. Arsenal were awarded a penalty in the second half after Eze was brought down by Hanko. The referee gave it immediately, no hesitation. He saw contact, he pointed to the spot. What followed was a 45-second VAR review, during which Michele visited the monitor and watched 13 separate replays before reversing his original decision. UEFA's official explanation stated that Hanko did not commit a foul, but multiple experienced pundits watching the same replays reached a completely different conclusion. Steven Gerrard said he was surprised the referee was even sent to the screen in the first place. He described the original penalty as soft, acknowledging minimal contact, but was emphatic that it was not a clear and obvious error to overturn. He called it really harsh on Arsenal. Martin Keown was direct. He said he simply did not believe it was clear and obvious. His most important observation: he felt the referee buckled under pressure, went to the screen and did not stick with his decision. The referee should not have been sent to the screen in the first place. Steve McManaman was equally forceful. He described Simeone's behaviour and the behaviour of his assistants during the review as atrocious. The constant haranguing of the fourth official, the gesturing at the monitor, he said it was unacceptable. When contact exists in the first place, it cannot be a clear and obvious error. The decision should not have been changed. Darren Fletcher on commentary went further still. He described Simeone as standing literally 5 yards behind the screen, bellowing at the referee, waving at him. Fletcher said if there was ever a moment to show a yellow card for trying to influence a referee, that was it. AFC Stuff posted footage showing Simeone actively positioning himself as the referee approached the VAR monitor. The penalty was subsequently overruled. What this evidence shows is a manager who should have no influence over a refereeing decision, physically placing himself in the eye line of the referee at the most critical moment of the review process. Simeone was gesturing. His assistants were haranguing the fourth official. This is not passion. This is calculated pressure. And whether it influenced the decision or not, it should never have been allowed to happen. Ali McCoy made perhaps the most important point of the night. He said that if the same foul had taken place in the Arsenal box and been given as a penalty, it would have stayed a penalty under VAR review. He is highlighting a fundamental inconsistency. If a foul is clear enough to be given in real time on the pitch, the threshold for VAR to overturn it must be extremely high. Multiple pundits, Gerrard, Keown, McManaman, McCoy, all reached the same conclusion independently. It was not clear enough. It should not have been overturned. That is deeply troubling, not just for Arsenal, but for the integrity of the competition. Now, the first controversial moment of the second half, the Ben White handball. White was penalised after the ball struck his left arm as he tried to block a volley from Marcos Llorente. UEFA confirmed the reasoning. His arm was away from his body, making himself bigger. Julian Alvarez converted emphatically to equalise. Jamie Carragher was scathing. He said handball penalties are a stain on the Champions League and was clear this should not have been a penalty. Gerrard offered a more measured take, acknowledging that when an arm is away from the body at this level, even unintentionally, those decisions tend to be given, and that under current Champions League regulations, these calls go against offenders. McCoy added another layer, questioning whether there was even contact off White's arm at all, rather than his leg. White was turning his back to block a shot. His arm was in a natural position for a player rotating away from the ball. Under the letter of current regulations, it was deemed sufficient. Whether that reflects the spirit of the game is a separate and legitimate debate. Thierry Henry described Arsenal's performance tonight as old school. He said yesterday they were on the moon, and now they are back on planet Earth. He is right. This was not Arsenal at their fluid, dominant best. It was Arsenal grinding, suffering 2 controversial refereeing decisions, losing their captain to an injury concern, and still coming away with a draw that keeps them in the tie. That in itself says something about the character of this squad. Jamie Carragher, Thierry Henry and Micah Richards were all asked about Arteta on CBS Sports Galazzo. The headline from that conversation: "The next month will define Mikel Arteta's time as Arsenal manager." That is an enormous statement, and it is completely accurate. All the build-up, all the investment, all the tactical development, all the squad building, it all comes down to what happens now. Here is the full picture of where Arsenal stand. They went to one of the most hostile grounds in European football. They took the lead. They were denied a penalty that most respected analysts believe should have stood. They conceded on a controversial handball decision. They lost their captain to an injury concern before the hour. And they still came home with a draw. Their Champions League record reads 10 wins, 3 draws, 0 defeats across 13 games. The last time they reached 13 games unbeaten in this competition, they reached the final. Victor Gyökeres delivered on the biggest stage again. Declan Rice was exceptional, Saliba was commanding, Raya was reliable. The second leg is at the Emirates. Arsenal must win. Atletico will come to North London knowing a draw takes them through. The pressure is on Arsenal to impose themselves, to play without fear and to convert their home advantage into the result that sends them to a European final. The debate about tonight's officiating will continue. It should continue. A referee being visibly influenced at a VAR monitor in a Champions League semi-final is not a minor issue. It is a fundamental challenge to the credibility of the competition. Multiple voices of genuine experience and authority have made that point loudly and clearly tonight. But Arsenal cannot change what happened. They can only control what happens next Tuesday. And based on the quality, the consistency, the record and the character this squad has shown all season, the evidence says they are capable of finishing the job at home.